Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who has been waiting for me. And welcome back to another live stream. Just give ourselves a second to make sure the live stream is up and running. And here we are. That was relatively quick. Cool. Beautiful. Again, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for waiting for me. Thank you to all of the members, subscribers, moderators, all of the new viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on this live stream. If you're new, I do these live streams regularly to open the space up for the community and give you a platform really to talk and share your views and thoughts. Obviously, any questions that I'd be more than happy to address. Excuse me in advance if, by the way, I missed some of the comments, just that sometimes they keep going up and down and we have a lot of comments usually, but I'm here regularly. So the more you're with me, the more likely I am to address anything if it was missed. And if you wouldn't mind just highlighting any comments as usual to make it easier for me to reach. Like the title states, tensions between Egypt and Israel following Egypt and their quite significant action, really, if you compare it to Egyptian actions, right? They still have ties with Israel. They didn't break all ties with Israel. But that's due to many reasons, by the way, not to give anyone any excuses, primarily them being a part of moderating and de-escalating when it comes to Gaza. And if they cut everything with Israel, then that means they put themselves in a position of more hostility, to say the least. Now, some people might argue that should be the case, but Egypt traditionally does not do that. Egypt usually chooses the diplomatic route as much as possible, and them going to the ICJ now, that I will be talking to you about in a sec, is something very dangerous when it comes to Israel, especially with the information that I'll be sharing with you. Before I get into tonight's topic, I just wanted to tell you that I posted a video earlier on. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it after this live stream. The Bloodthirsty Child murderers, they're still on a genocide campaign in Gaza, obviously. You know, before they attacked Rafah, I said that Netanyahu probably wants to give Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the bloodthirsty, genocidal, depraved people that support him and his actions in Israel and everywhere else, really. You give them a couple of trucks full of Palestinian children and women's bodies, Palestinian babies' bodies, some blood for them to drink or do a ritual with. Not sure what they do exactly. But clearly these people are bloodthirsty, satanic people. Even Satan himself would be ashamed of them. I mean, what kind of people do that? What kind of people bomb children and innocent people? What kind of people do that? Depravity to the highest extent. Genocidal, psychopathic people. They're not normal people. Do you know who else is not normal and is just as depraved? Anyone who doesn't see this for what it is. Anyone who still gives them an excuse. Anyone who covers up. They're just as depraved as them. Don't let no one fool you. The central province in Gaza, and by the way, I spoke a lot of things in that video. Go ahead and watch it afterwards. But the central province in Gaza, they said they had approximately 60 casualties, 60 martyrs, only the central province. Now they're telling the people of Jabalia to evacuate to safe havens, as if there's a safe haven in Gaza. And they're being enabled they're being enabled by their genocidal supporters. They're genocidal supporters across the world, primarily, obviously, in the United States, the US government, the British government, who's keen on continuing the supply of weapons, by the way. Clown Cameron declared that he will continue supporting them with weapons. And I posted something on my community tab where I raised the question, do they have any other images or videos of Cameron with any other pig head? Do they have videos of him on an island? What do they have against him? How much did they pay him? What do they have on these people? The undercover hidden Epstein network? What else do we have? What kind of positions do they have the people in so that they can take such strong support from them? Unless you're talking about absolute evil and depravity and next level supremacy and racism and carelessness about human life. Possible, but hey, it could be a combination of many things. At the same time, you had the Palestinian resistance. They're doing stuff that they weren't doing before Rafah, really. Doing for a while. They did them in the beginning of the war. Like quality, very specific actions against Israel. Missiles on Israeli cities. And then you had Hezbollah as well. But to our topic tonight, and then I'll obviously open the space up for all of your comments. We have the Times of Israel. Times of Israel. They said Egypt joins the ICJ case against Israel. As one official warns, Rafah op puts peace at risk. This is coming simultaneously. With calls from within Egypt to, that's it, just go on a war. People who are in the media, people who are aligned with the government, saying that that's it. Well, what are we waiting for? Exactly. On Egyptian mainstream media. The Times of Israel, they said, as IDF deepens action, City Cairo escalates pressure on Jerusalem to pull back troops. At the same time, country's foreign minister insists peace treaty is core pillar of regional stability. With the IDF deepening its ground operations in Rafah, a senior Egyptian official told the Associated Press on Sunday that Cairo had lodged protests with Israel, the United States, and European governments, warning that its peace treaty with Israel, a cornerstone of regional stability, was at high risk. The news agency did not report any further comments from the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity. At the same time, at a Cairo press conference with his Slovenian counterpart, Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri sought to calm worries over the future of a peace deal. The peace agreement with Israel has been Egypt's strategic choice for 40 years, and it represents core pillar of the peace in the region for peace and stability. Why is he so keen, the man? He said, adding that there are mechanisms for adjudicating violations to the agreement. Nevertheless, later Sunday, Egypt announced it would support South Africa's ongoing lawsuit in the International Court of Justice, accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. This is where Egypt is stepping up from a diplomatic perspective. Egypt's statement said the decision comes in light of the worsening severity and scope of Israeli attacks against Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip and the continued perpetration of systematic practices against the Palestinian people, including direct targeting of civilians and the destruction of infrastructure in the Strip and pushing Palestinians to flee. Proceedings are ongoing at the ICJ in The Hague in the Netherlands to examine South Africa's claim that Israel's aerial offensive in Gaza, launched after Hamas's October 7th attack, is aimed at bringing about the destruction of the population in Gaza. Israel rejects the accusations as false, saying in aspects of international law, they have a right to defend themselves after, obviously, they carried out the attack, after Hamas attacked them on the 7th of October. The Israeli Foreign Ministry, in the meantime, they did not comment. They're not commenting. They know the severity of the relations between them and Egypt, and they did not want to comment. They continued, while Egypt has been hosting on and off talks aimed at reaching a ceasefire and a hostage deal, Cairo also has been heavily critical of Israel and its prosecution of the ongoing war with Hamas. But the prospect of a widespread ground offensive in the southernmost city, just next to Gaza's border with Egypt, has sharpened such criticism. Now note, Egypt previously said it's a red line, all of Rafah. That's why Israel most likely promised them and the US, by some statements that they publish as well, that it will be limited to East Rafah. And that's why they diverted to other locations after Rafah, by the way. If you previously told us it was only Rafah, obviously they're hyper-pathological liars. Israel lies more than it breathes. Israel was found on lies. They're hyper-pathological liars. They lie more than they breathe, and everything they talk is lies, unless confirmed by something else. Like they dismantled everything with Hamas, now they're going everywhere in Gaza. Well, you said you dismantled them. Why are you going back? Well, go to the Rafah, it's the last place. As soon as they go, we have 2 more places now, and they're in all parts of Gaza as well. Obviously, this has links with Benjamin Netanyahu himself. Because, like I said yesterday, Herzi Halevi, the chief of staff, he said, we're just going back in circles. It's not possible. If there's no political scope, we'll keep doing what we're doing, and we won't reach any solution. And obviously, clearly, Benjamin Netanyahu did not receive the assurances that he's looking for to stay in power after the war. Because Benjamin Netanyahu will sell the Israeli people, he will sell the Israeli army, and he will sell his mother for his own position. Complete psychopathic lunatic, Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's evident. I mean, how many Israelis did he kill? They massacred the Israelis in the Nova Festival. They massacred Israelis in Kibbutz Be'eri, in Nir Oz, in Ra'im. Like the Israelis confirmed who survived the 7th of October from these kibbutzes. The Nova Festival with the helicopters, showing the Israeli helicopters shooting at the revelers. The latest pilot that I spoke to you about, that was published in Haaretz and a couple of other newspapers, who confirmed we were ordered to shoot at every vehicle going back to Gaza. They were killing their own people. They were massacring Israelis on the 7th of October. Yet they're selling this false narrative. Hamas committed the massacre. And where are the Nova Festival survivors? 50 of them committed suicide, and the rest are in forced hospitalization. Uh-oh. Why are they in forced hospitalization? What's happening? And what's a forced hospitalization, by the way? What is that? A representative of the victims of the Nova Festival, he was at the Israeli Knesset criticizing Knesset members, telling them, why are they forced to being hospitalized? 50 committed suicide. Where is our government? Yet, some people are still fooled by the mainstream narrative. They continued. The Wall Street Journal reported in February that Egyptian officials had warned the decades-long peace treaty between Egypt and Israel could be suspended if Israel Defense Forces troops were to enter Rafah, or if any of Rafah's refugees are forced southward into the Sinai Peninsula. In an effort to forestall a massive influx of refugees, Egypt has stationed tanks near its borders with Gaza after reinforcing the border wall since the beginning of the war, both structurally and with surveillance equipment, and they ended it then. Again, a strong move if you count it by the Egyptian moves, right? Not to count by someone trying to prevent a genocide. Like I said, no one did anything to stop the genocide. Israel, we know they're a bloodthirsty nation. We know they were established on genocide, on ethnic cleansing, so we're not surprised them committing the biggest massacre in the history of Palestinians all at once. Nothing surprising there. Genocidal governments supporting, not surprising as well. What, the British government, the American government, some European governments, of course we're not surprised. They committed far bigger massacres, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a day they used to commit. So they're looking at Israel and, they're understanding Israel's position. But the Arab nations next to Israel, what are you doing? What are you doing? And like I said before, there's no deterrence. There is no deterrence. That's why Israel's committing what it's committing. No one's deterring Israel. Like, I'll level parts of your country if you level Gaza, or if you continue, for example, for them to feel what they inflict on other people. So far, they haven't felt what they inflict on other people. It's only the army suffering, mostly, by the way. 7th of October, army. Now Gaza's defense war, army. Their army is being humiliated, dismantled in front of everyone, embarrassment. That's why they post TikTok videos with women's bras and them stealing butchered babies' bicycles, like depraved idiots. But the people in Israel, the people who were evacuated, they're in hotels. While the people in Gaza are in tents and being butchered by this satanic death cult. In tents, bombing tents and being proud, these depraved people. What a depraved nation. Bombing people and posting it on TikTok. Feeling proud of themselves. What kind of mentality? Imagine these people. And you have many people like that in Israel supporting this. A tiny minority opposes the genocide. There are some people who are anti-genocide, will go out bravely say, we're against the genocide. What are you committing? And there are people who will want a different type of genocide. Look, we don't have a problem with the concept of genocide and mass murder, but not in this manner. Right? However, this move is increasing the tensions between Egypt and Israel. Obviously, Egypt, like many in the Israeli intelligence establishment say, they broke every line of the Camp David Accords. They have too many forces in Sinai. They have heavy equipment in Sinai. 100,000 troops were sent after the 7th of October, and they conducted the biggest military drills in a very long time, just after the war started. Who are they preparing for? Israel. Most of Egypt, the Egyptian military training is against Israel. Obviously, the criticism that they're receiving in terms of military is the fact that they haven't taken action to stop the genocide or to ditch the trilateral agreement they have with Israel and the corrupt Palestinian Authority in the West Bank with regards to the RAF Crossing. There are priorities. There's human suffering. There are priorities. And human life is worth more than ink on paper. It's worth more than that. In the space up for you, see if you have any comments or questions that I'd be more than happy to address. Irene's is saying, yes, but they pulled away their tanks from Sinai now, right? No, not from Sinai. Sinai is huge. If they did, it would have been a tactical move from Rafah. Okay? Sinai is humongous. They have so much space and freedom of movement. And they have heavy equipment that they didn't have in accordance to the Camp David Accords. It should be a demilitarized zone. But like I said, Egypt doesn't say much. In terms of statements, you'll see they're the most diplomatic thing ever. Toro Tama, greetings, Mahmoud. Do you see any chance of Egypt using some leverage to stop the genocidal entity? This is leverage. Them joining is leverage. However, any leverage from anyone that has been used so far isn't enough. The only leverage that was used that was sufficient to limit what this satanic death cult is doing in Gaza is number one, Hezbollah from the north. They're in a war of attrition with the Israeli army. They took down 30 to 40% of their overall forces, decreasing their forces and their level of aggression against Gaza, yet keeping it a very well calculated activity to not attract an all-out war in Lebanon. Because don't forget, there are some people in Lebanon who like Israel. Let's not forget that. So Hezbollah doesn't want to give anyone excuse, although they're being supported by the majority of the people. And any honorable, free human being on earth would support the resistance. You need to be twisted to not support the resistance and support this genocidal entity. You must have something not working there. Your moral compass isn't working, your level of knowledge, something must be wrong with you. But hey, some people are like that. And some people, they're blinded by the hate for anything to do with Hezbollah in Iran. They're blinded. Oh, no way, it's just an act. Iran wouldn't do it. They have their own campaign. They have their own strategy in the Middle East. Well, what is your strategy? Sitting and peeling potatoes, is that your strategy? What is it? At least Iran has a strategy. And guess what? Anyone who is being supported by Iran is actively working to prevent the genocide. These are the facts that we have in front of us. And show me what else anyone else has done. Show me. Tell me what they've done. Oh, we condemn. You'll have the Saudi foreign minister. Oh, the efforts are not enough. The efforts being taken are not enough. You're one of the most important Arab states telling me statements are not enough. Egypt, last minute diplomacy about everything. All of them had an excuse, by the way, to conduct a preemptive strike against this genocidal entity from the beginning. They proved to be genocidal. They don't follow the international law. They verified their genocidal intent. Gazans are human animals, kill all of their children, kill all of their women. These people do not deserve to be in power and must be the justice and stopped. But your genocidal governments. And some of the Arab states are sitting there looking. But thankfully, not everyone is quiet. And some people take the noble and right thing to do, even though they put themselves at risk. Like those who tell you Iran, oh, it's just a game, between them and the United States. They would lift sanctions off Iran if they took a different position. So what are you talking about? I know Iran has a back way for, selling oil through Iraq and through other countries, even in their arms. But their position with Palestine, that was there before even Hamas existed, by the way, since the revolution in 1979. It's unconditional support based on a moral principle, based on belief. No question. You can argue with them here and there, you can disagree with them here and there, but Palestine, they proved it. And ask the resistance, don't ask me, go ask them. Who supports them? Officially, unapologetically. Iran. So Egypt, with this action, they're using some leverage. In my opinion, it's ineffective leverage. The only leverage that Israel understands is force, because they never understood anything apart from force. Israel, ever since establishment, has been an expansionist, violent, supremacist, neo-colonialist, apartheid state. They went and occupied Sinai. When did they withdraw? War. Armed conflict with them. Withdrew. Occupied Lebanon, South Lebanon. When did they withdraw? After they faced armed resistance. Gaza, how did they leave? Apart from the fact that they had a plan for Gaza and the West Bank and splitting the two. But how did they leave? After they faced resistance. Armed resistance. And what happened to the people who spoke nicely with Israel for 31 years? What happened to them? What happened to the West Bank? They've been talking, peace, begging Israel, please, please, please. We condemn world, please help us. UN, please do something. Your resolutions say that. They don't care about you, you ignorant fool. They have no respect for you. You're spineless. You're a little slave puppet. They don't care about you. They respect people who have power. That's who they respect. Otherwise, you're worthless to them. Oh, we condemn and we ask them, and please give us our rights. Israel, please. 31 years, what did that lead to? Settlers, squatters, from 100,000 to almost 1 million. Land grabbing. They control almost everything. More checkpoints. 15 minutes journey takes you 5 hours. Killing people, left, right. They have fun in the West Bank. These twisted, depraved soldiers, they shoot people for fun. They shoot people for fun. And look at Israeli organizations such as Breaking the Silence. You'll have Israeli soldiers telling you what they were committing in the West Bank. Abusing these innocent people on a day-to-day basis. And then they wonder, why do they hate us? Oh my God. Anti-Semitism. Shut up. Shut up. You've shown them nothing but ugliness throughout all of their lives. You've shown them racism and misery and occupation, killing and brutality. What do you think? They're going to look at you and love you? They'll spit at your face. They would want you gone. Delusional. I'm telling you, it's like psychopathic lunatics, these people. So, with all due respect to political moves and what have you, and hey, look, I'm calling for a peaceful solution. I wrote a book, a one-state solution that everything can be solved with equality. No bloodshed. Nothing. We hate war. I believe in human potential to reach a day where there will be no war. And we will reach solutions diplomatically. But so long as you have greedy people who value their life and their interests more than other people, including their own, and they'll send their people to get killed and butchered while killing and butchering other people for financial and political and corporate greed, people will have to defend themselves. People will have to defend themselves. And any leverage that has been used against Israel so far is not working from these official governments, by the way. The only leverage working is the leverage of the resistance, of Palestinian resistance, of the Lebanese resistance, of the Yemeni resistance, of the Iraqi resistance, backed by Iran. That's what's working. Let's go to your next question. Ansarullah is asking, Mahmoud, what is the Zionist arsenal size? Any idea of how many bullets, bombs, missiles they got left? Is it enough for a war with Lebanon? Let me tell you one thing. If Israel had enough bombs similar to the bombs that they were using in the early days, the 1.25 ton, half a ton bombs they were landing on Gaza, they would have used them. They would have used them. So clearly they don't have an infinite supply of weapons. And that's evident. The US is using it as leverage. Everyone in Israel is talking about their need to produce their own weapons. The defense minister, Netanyahu, people in the military establishment, we need to have our own weapons. We need to have our own, we need to manufacture everything across the board, and we cannot trust the goyim. And a derogatory reference to everyone. The depraved people who support them, right? There is a limit. There is a limit. There aren't enough numbers for an all-out, all-front war with everyone. Of course there isn't. Look at Ukraine. Do you think the supply is indefinite? It doesn't work like that. But it's not only that. It's the people in Israel. Many people are refusing to serve in the army. Over 3 million fled Israel and said Israel is done, Zionism is dead, that's it. Many people are not willing to fight for Benjamin Netanyahu. In effect, you can say that there's kind of two armies in Israel now. The Galilee army with Division 36 and the Kfir army fighting in the south. Kfir, which consists of radical religious Zionist settlers from the West Bank. People who are willing to die for these messianic delusions and supremacy complexes. Cow Porok saying, Mahmoud, why did not Egypt defend their territory when Israel seized the Philadelphia Gate? It's because technically, it goes against agreements they had. But it technically isn't Egyptian territory. Now, you had a couple of things happening on Egyptian territory. Later, there was a de-escalation because you had counter things coming from Egypt. Like you had an Egyptian soldier killing 3 Israeli soldiers over a year ago, hailed as a hero in Egypt. It was de-escalated. In the past 6 months, you had approximately 3 events where Israeli shells landed in Egyptian territory. Then they clarified and, sorry, it was a mistake. Same with Egypt. You had action from Egypt. And I said this from the beginning, like Egypt and Turkey and these countries, they won't participate in this unless their territory is attacked. Then you don't know exactly what would happen. It would surprise us if Egypt does something. Definitely calls for them to participate from within Egypt. Some people in the army are showing frustration in the media, in politics, and they haven't so far. And I think they won't unless something happens on Egyptian territories. And look, I think this is why Israel is deviating and is moving to other parts of Gaza to lessen the importance of Rafah, to make Rafah look like it's not that significant. And I have no idea how anyone is fooled by these people, by the way. They said clearly, we're going on Rafah to dismantle the final brigades of Hamas. We dismantled them across all of Gaza. And now they have this limited campaign. They get military humiliation from the Palestinian resistance, and they go to other places and they get military humiliation from the resistance. Therefore, they retaliate against the civilian population with baby body parts. I mean, who saw that? Did someone see that in a horror movie? Should we see such scenes? And as difficult as it is, you have to share it so some people can see it. Children's body parts. What is that? What kind of a world do we live in? And people still covering up. Families, whole families lying, their bodies on the floor, their children next to them looking at their traumatized. People losing all of their... What kind of a world is this? What kind of people support this? What kind of people cover up these crimes? What kind of people still legitimize this entity? No entity that conducts such actions has a right to exist. They don't have a right to exist. Any entity that commits massacres at this scale, they do not have a right to exist or govern. These people should rot in prison before they rot in hell. That's where they should be. Joseph Houghton saying, will Arab countries continue to be allies of the West as they're aligned too far? To understand the relationship between the Arab governments and the Western governments, I think you should look back at the Sykes-Picot Agreement, really. When the English and the French powers, when they had the agreement to split the Middle East. For these people to be in power, they had to be aligned with the imperial powers constantly. So there is a shift. It's not like there isn't a shift. China's having more presence in the Middle East. They're having more presence in Africa. So is Russia. Funny enough, with the increase of independence of these nations. So the moment African nations start to kick out the racist colonists from their places, American forces, French troops, and what have you, all of a sudden they start talking about unity, African countries. Russia comes and helps them. China supports development plans. Hell, they even lifted off 50 billion of their debts a few years ago. China. That's the difference between a supremacist, colonialist, entitled mentality and people who view other nations as equal and just try and deal with them for mutual benefit. But even in the Arab states, it's look, the US is not being viewed as the same way they used to be viewed before. I mean, even when Biden was visiting even Egypt and Saudi Arabia, you know, the heads of the state didn't meet him in from the airplane, right? And unlike protocols that they have with other heads of state, for example, they don't receive the same respect that they used to before. And these countries, apart from their relations and their political and financial affiliations with Western powers, they have their own interests as well. And some of them only care about them being in power, preserving their power and prolonging it, and not wanting to. Jack Ayub is saying, sorry, brother Mahmoud, feeling better now. My white cells are in overdue. So I assume you took the Iranian antibiotics. I think so. I'm glad that you're well, my friend. Venger, thank you for your super thanks. You said Jordan will soon have to make a hard decision. Look, I don't think they're going to do anything in terms of like war or what have you. The only time they said it would be a declaration of war is in a case where Israel actually expels the people of Gaza and the people of the West Bank. Then the foreign minister, Ayman al-Safadi, said at the time, that will be a declaration of war. Because look what they've done. They helped Israel, Jordan, intercept the Iranian attack. Porky Pig Pantalona saying, Marhaba Akhi Mahmoud, Ahla Sahla. The IOF must approve news out of Israel. How reliable are the leaks we read in their papers? Maybe PSYOPs? Allah ma'ak, Habibi. Thank you so much, brother. Look, there is immense in Israel, okay? Like, they introduce new laws for even people watching stuff they call terror content. You can be imprisoned for watching something that doubts the official narrative of the 7th of October. The denial of the 7th of October, like the denial of this and that. Thought policing, right? As if you shouldn't question anything. Okay. We still have leaks. We still have power games. We still have people on the streets. We still have people with interests. We still have divisions. We still have conflicts. And regardless of all the censorship, something will come out at some point. From where? From inside the cabinet meeting. This is how divided this country is on every level, societal, political, and military level. The latest fight that I told you about in the video yesterday, that was leaked. That was leaked from an Israeli cabinet meeting. Someone sitting there recorded or leaked to the press what happened when they should not. This should be totally confidential, secrets. To a level where Benjamin Netanyahu was security checking the IDF chief before going into a meeting. Imagine you're a prime minister, your IDF chief comes in, you check him if he has recording devices. And they had a massive argument at the time. Fights broke out between them multiple times. So despite all of the censorship, you still have people who have interest to leak things that the media will publish. Because not all the media sees eye to eye, and not everyone sees eye to eye, to say the least. And some things are absolutely psyops, like, publish garbage. 98% is garbage. Similar to mainstream media everywhere, really. Mainstream media in the West. 99.9% garbage, brain trash. Right? If it had a label, a warning label, it would say not for human consumption. It's so bad for your health. Brain. Think about it this way. You don't eat rotten food, don't eat rotten knowledge in your brain. And they constantly feed you rotten knowledge, manipulation, propaganda, lies, fear, psychological warfare in your head 24/7. Don't take that garbage. And many of you don't already, I know that. Mainstream media, garbage. And when you look at it, look with suspicion 24/7. Look at the poison. Look for the poison. Take, if you want to quote, my work, you have to kind of read everything and listen to boring manipulators for an hour sometimes to know what they're saying. It's agonizing sometimes, but hey. But generally, no. Look for the poison. Because think about it this way. What is it used for? Mainstream media. Controlling you, not enlightening you. How do they control you? How do they control you? Fear, number one. Fear. Number one, instilling fear in you. You should be petrified. You should be petrified of saying a word, doubting, and they'll say everything. These people are bad. Be careful. Right? Lies 24/7, spinning anything to support their narrative. To control you. Push you a certain way. They're not interested in an enlightened society. They're not interested in social cohesion. They're not interested in communities talking to each other and being open for each other and respecting each other. They're interested in communities constantly at it, racist against each other, scapegoating each other. And he's the baddie, that's the baddie, da. Lies 24/7. Black is white, white is black. Darkness is light, light is darkness. Let's see if you have anything else. Vivette saying, hi Mahmoud, do you know if the Rafah crossing is open for aid and also if a ceasefire deal is still ongoing? The Rafah is closed. Egypt, from their side, they're willing to open it, but they won't open it to deal with Israel. So Egypt said, we are not willing for Israel to accept aid. That's another leverage that Egypt is using. From their perspective, that would be recognizing Israeli legitimacy on the other side. If it was a Palestinian side, whether the Palestinian Authority from the West Bank or Hamas, they'll open it, but not Israel. So Israel can't show that, oh, look, we're getting the aid. They obviously don't want aid. The situation in the north is bad too. And obviously the people are suffering. Eddie Moose is saying no more updates on Sarah operation. We did have updates. A lot. They said they're expanding their operations now. And they might even reach the Mediterranean. And look, that won't be surprising. They already reached the southern part of Israel, Eilat. They hurt the Israeli economy so badly. And they had targets inside of Israel as well. And the genocide coalition is doing nothing. The US and Britain, they're doing nothing against them now. They realize that that's it. These people are unbeatable. Their lack of action confirms we can't do anything. That's deterrence. That's leverage. Through what? Power. Well, this is how they constantly prove it. They don't want to reach peaceful solutions. They don't want to implement equality. They want Israel to remain a supremacist country. Face it then. Otherwise, it's easy. It's more cost effective and eco-friendly, by the way. But no. When it comes to Israel, no. Compassion is saying, and I'll leave it at that. I'll finish it with the compassion. He's saying, in my opinion, Egypt is joining the resistance because Egypt feels that Sinai is at risk, and I'm sure Egypt is about to open another front of armed resistance. Look, what's for sure is that Egypt views Gaza as a strategic front against Israel. They want some strong force in Gaza, in the neck of Israel. And there is support. It will be hidden. It won't admit it. There's something going on, to say the least, between them and the resistance. Not officially. It won't have liability. But something is happening. Look, this assassination of this Israeli guy in Egypt, that looked like an undercover government thing. It was recorded in this group and with a name and published on social media. It's as if they send them a message that, look, you're treading too close now. We can do other stuff, right? So they have an interest. I think a case of them opening out a full-scale front with Israel is very much the last resort. But they will not submit to what Israel wants, and they haven't submitted from day one. That didn't help stopping the genocide, undeniably. But if Egypt bought into and fell into the pressure that was immense from day one on them, from Israel, from the US, from France, from Germany, to open the borders and get an influx of Palestinian refugees, that everyone prepared. Israel, Britain, France, Germany, the United States, all of them wanted to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. All of them. Don't forget that. But Egypt stood firm against that attempt. And also, do not forget that. Didn't help to stop the genocide, I know. Not enough, I know. Criticism, of course. But they did not let that happen. And if that did happen, we wouldn't have been here. We would have had a different situation. And we'll end it there. Thank you so much again for everyone joining me. And if you haven't watched my previous video, you can go ahead and watch it. I'm sorry if I missed any of your comments, because comments keep going up and down, and we obviously have limited time. I will hopefully be with you tomorrow anyway. I'm with you regularly. I will either post the live link earlier on during the day or later during the night. Apart from that, thank you so much for joining in, participating. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the week ahead, and I will see you soon in the next video.